I'm Gabriel Morency for Sports Interaction. Well, the countdown has finally reached its conclusion. The waiting is over. We finally have the opportunity to watch some quote-unquote real football. Yeah, we had the Arena Football League. Yes, we've had the Canadian Football League. We had the NFL preseason, but now we get to watch some real men throw it down. We get to lay down some large chunks of money on some real football. And, of course, I'm talking about the AFL as it's quarterfinal time in Australia, and it doesn't get any better than this. Now, for the record, I've made a lot of money this year on the West Coast Eagles, and they're getting 29.5 points against Collingwood. Take the over in this game. If you get an opportunity to, I'm going to be taking the underdog Eagles plus the 29.5. I'm going to lay the points with Carlton, and I'm going to take the underdog Sydney Swans. They may be called Swans, but they don't play like them. Now, speaking of the Eagles, yes, I know. I was only kidding about the real football. These guys are tough son of a bitches, tougher than NFL players even, I think. Let's take a look at the other Eagle game. I'll be taking the St. Louis Rams on Sunday. And yes, you know what? Call me crazy. I've been called a hell of a lot worse. But who knows the Philadelphia Eagles schemes and Andy Reid schemes and Marty Morningwig schemes better than St. Louis Ram head coach Steve Spagnuolo. This guy, of course, used to be an assistant coach with the Eagles, and then he was the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants. He knows Andy Reid inside out. Obviously, Michael Vick is an X factor in this football game. But don't take too much from the Philadelphia Eagles beatdown of the Cleveland Browns in the unofficial dress rehearsal of the regular season. The Cleveland Browns had 6 starters out in that football game, and the Philadelphia Eagle offense has not been in sync yet. They haven't had the opportunity to get enough reps yet, and while the Philadelphia Eagles might win this football game, I believe it's a large task to ask to go into a dome in the first game of the year against Sam Bradford and the St. Louis Rams. Now, don't forget, they brought in Sims Walker from Jacksonville in St. Louis as well. Just another weapon for Bradford to work with. And yes, the Philadelphia Eagle defense is going to be tough as hell to score on, but it's week 1 and crazy things happen. I think the St. Louis Rams hang around. And while I may be a Buffalo Bill fan, and I'm not harping on this game because I am a Buffalo Bill fan, if you take a look at the numbers, and the numbers speak for themselves, the Buffalo Bills have covered 9 of the last 14 on the highway. They've covered the last 4 games against the Kansas City Chiefs, including an overtime thriller last year. Dante Whitner had a sure interception, and Locke could have sealed the win for the Buffalo Bills. I think Buffalo remembers what happened last year. Matt Castle hasn't practiced much this week. Guy's got a busted rib, and last time I checked, Matt Castle's not Dan Pastorini, he who invented the flak jacket. So you know what? Give me the Buffalo Bills, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Buffalo Bills win this game outright. Buffalo Bills bring in Kirk Morrison. Buffalo Bills bring in Nick Barnett from the Green Bay Packers. They got Sean Merriman flying around. They got Marcel Darius there. They're going to be much tougher to run the football on. And while the Bills play in a tough division, are not a playoff team, they will be a covering machine this year like they were last year as well. Monday night's a tough one here. We got the Patriots and the Dolphins, and I literally despise both these teams. I have bad luck betting on or against both these teams as well. So the disciplinarian in me tells me to pass. The degenerate in me tells me I want to get in on this, but I really don't see a strong angle, although I do like the Denver Broncos. Now, anyone that watched the Raiders during the preseason saw they were absolutely terrible. They had a lot of health issues. Now, you know, their defense is okay, but they lost Nnamdi Asomugha. And you lose Nnamdi Asomugha, that's a big loss. Kyle Orton is going to tear the Raiders apart, and the Broncos are going to remember how the Raiders knocked the crap out of them last year. Now, we've got Michigan and Notre Dame. Last year, Michigan and Notre Dame, another classic. Denard Robinson threw himself to the front of the Heisman Trophy race before Rich Rod screwed everything up. Well, Rich Rod's not there anymore. Unfortunately, Brian Kelly is still there at Notre Dame, and there were lightning strikes last week in South Bend, and unfortunately, Kelly wasn't hit. But hey, you don't always get what you want, right? Brian Kelly, the much hyped Kelly, takes his Notre Dame Fighting Irish into Michigan, and they're actually favored on the road. Brady Hoke's the real deal. Michigan is the real deal. Denard Robinson's going to go off again. This game's going to go over the number, and the Michigan Wolverines are going to cover. I don't like taking the unders and college football games, but I don't see many points on the board in Penn State and Alabama, and I'm going to be leading with the Nittany Lions. I watched that Alabama-Kent State game last week, and Alabama were fortunate to cover the number, and yes, they ran a very vanilla offensive game plan, but A.J. McCarron isn't quite ready to be starting on the road in front of 113,000 people or whatever it's going to be up there in Happy Drunk Valley. Yes, Alabama's going to be able to run the football, and yes, Alabama have maybe an NFL caliber defense, but asking Alabama to cover 10 on the road against a very, very good Penn State Nittany Lion team, they've got subpar quarterback play at Penn State, but double-digit points, I'm leaning. This is going to be a great game to watch, but I'm leaning with the underdog here, but I really like the Michigan Wolverines to get it done. Now, if there's a bigger douche in college football than Lane Kiffin, even bigger than Brian Kelly, you show him to me. Lane Kiffin, the guy spends more time reading his chart than he does actually watching a game that he's supposed to be coaching. And then being a class act that he is, he tweets after Saturday's win against Minnesota, non-cover, I might add, in one of the worst coaching performances in the history of football itself, an insult to Pop Warner. That's what it was. Says, it's not my fault. I only have 2 good offensive players. Way to throw the college kids out of the bus, Lane. You're a class act, especially after the first week. I'm sure they're really going to want to play hard for you, coach. Now, the Utah Utes, normally I'd be all over Utah in this spot, but I've been burnt too many times, although because of Lane Kiffin's insane moves and just his overall jerkdom, I think Utah could be worth a look here. Now, let's wrap it up in the octagon / ring cage, whatever you want to call it. Strike Force while it still lasts. Now, this heavyweight tournament is a complete joke, but we got some great fights going down. I do like Josh Barnett to get it done. A lot of hype about Daniel Cormier. And, Cormier's a great fighter. And, of course, we know about his wrestling pedigree. But Bigfoot Silva is a huge individual. And I think Bigfoot Silva will get it done. I know Cormier's a live dog, but my big play of the Strike Force card on Saturday is going to be King Mo. Gracie's stand-up is awful. With all due respect to the Gracies, and I got a lot of respect for them, but a stand-up leaves something to be desired. I think King Mo has learned his lessons. I think that King Mo's speed will be too much for Gracie, and as long as he doesn't get Gracie-fied and caught in some sort of crazy-ass sub, I think that King Mo should have a dominant performance and victory on Saturday night. I'm Gabriel Morency for Sports Interaction. You better stock up on batteries because you're going to be doing a lot of clicking this weekend. May the winners be yours.